What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about spaceships. You see, we recently had a look at Popper Wheelie, which was the first card we had ever had that gave a bit of love and support to motorbikes. Well, now we've actually got some support for spaceships as well, in the shape of an unconventional flying object. Shout out to Transformers and to Ken Daigle especially, who did reveal this in an article, I want to say yesterday or 2 days ago, really depends when this gets uploaded, but fairly recently anyway. And this is going to give some love to those spaceships. And we don't actually have very many spaceships at all. We have got a grand total of 5. And again, somewhat weirdly, just like motorbikes, there were none in Wave 2. A little bit strange. Okay, so before we get to the spaceships, let's look at what it does. It's got a blue icon, which means if you're going about defending, yay! Extra defense, always nice. And it reads, flip one of your spaceships to bot mode, then flip it back to alt mode. Now, this is awesome, because you start in alt mode, which means there's none of this mucking about business. It's not like with Popper Wheelie where you need to get all of your motorbikes into bot mode so you can flip them into alt mode and really make the most of this. This is a car that you can use straight away, unless you're going first when you're not allowed to do actions or upgrades, and then it's going to have something. And of course, we do get to the question of, well, hang on a second. Why are we flipping them into bot mode, then straight back into alt mode? And the reason essentially is you get to use their skills when you do so. And the great thing is, because you're flipping into both modes, you get the when you flip into alt mode skill or the when you flip into bot mode skill. Now, as it stands at the moment, we've only got 5 spaceships and none of them actually have a skill which comes in when you flip into bot mode. The majority of skills are when you flip to alt mode, not all of them. But this is future-proofing, because if we ever get a spaceship character in the future that does have a skill when you flip into bot mode, this has got your back. So at this stage, we need to have a look at each of the spaceships in turn and go, right, which one of these can actually use it? Now, if you're wondering which ones we've got, in Wave 1, we had Autobot Cosmos and Decepticon Shockwave. In Wave 2, like I said, we weirdly had 0 spaceships and 0 motorcycles. It's almost like Transformers are going, look, they haven't got any support, so let's just chill for a bit. And then in Wave 3, we'll give them support, and then we can print more. And they did print more, because we've not seen all the characters from Wave 3 yet, but we have already seen Major Shockwave, Major Soundwave, and Alpha Trion. So, let's have a gander, shall we? Now, one of probably my favourite, in fact, is Autobot Cosmos, and this was one of the rares I have pulled fresh from a pack, so it's got a little bit more love from me. And when you flip it into alt mode, and remember, the unconventional flying object here flips into bot mode, then alt mode, so this skill would work nicely. Scrap all cards from your hand, and then draw that many cards. So you're going to be sitting there rocking in alt mode, play this, and essentially that becomes scrap all cards from your hand, draw that many cards. That's a good draw card. It's pretty all or nothing, mind you, because you've got to scrap your entire hand. You might have cards you want to keep in your hand. Gutted, you can't. But as long as you're willing to do so, you should be all right here. Then in Wave 1, we also had Decepticon Shockwave. When you flip to this mode, each player draws 2 cards, which, interestingly enough, we did get in Wave 2 as an action card in and of itself. It was Testify. Each player draws 2 cards, and my thoughts on this skill are exactly the same as my thoughts on Testify. It's nice, but you do give your opponent an advantage, so you've really got to make the most of this. It's draw power for them, it's draw power for you. However, we can make this work, because let's not forget Decepticon Shockwave's bot mode skill. When a card is scrapped from your opponent's hand, your opponent chooses one of their characters and does 1 damage to it. So the more cards they've got in hand, the more cards they're going to scrap. You could also use this for something like System Reboot. Each player scraps a hand and draws 4 cards. But the problem is you need to play Unconventional Flying Object and then you need to play System Reboot in the same turn. So now you're talking Brainstorm, and although it's possible, anytime you're relying on Brainstorm and 2 specific cards, it's just not something you're going to always have in your hand. It's going to get a little bit awkward. Now, moving into Wave 3, which we're getting soon, just to get it out of the way, we did look at Major Soundwave recently. Major Soundwave doesn't really interact with this at all. In bot mode, when you attack, you untap each of your spy patrols. In alt mode, each of your spy patrols gains 1 defense. It's fine, it's lovely, it's great with the spy patrols, and I'm a big fan of it, as I told you the other day. But it's not something which is actually going to use all the time. It's just not really going to work. So, yeah, Major Soundwave is fine, but not with this. How about Major Shockwave, though? Major Shockwave, we can make it work. In alt mode, when you flip to this mode, draw a card, then your opponent chooses a card from their hand and scraps it. This is very, very nice indeed. Now again, if you can Brainstorm and then just double Unconventional Flying Object, you draw 2 cards, your opponent scraps 2 cards from their hand, which in a game where players generally have small hand sizes, is kind of hilarious. But either way, this is really, really good. This is going to work, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolutely going to work. So I think Shockwave can be good, and you can actually play a double Shockwave deck, because they add up to exactly 25 stars. And then you can either draw a card and make your opponent scrap a card, or you can both draw 2 cards. Bearing in mind, if you've got Decepticon Shockwave, the Wave 1 Shockwave, too many waves, in bot mode, and then you play this on Major Shockwave in alt mode, you draw a card, your opponent scraps a card from their hand, but because you've got Decepticon Shockwave in bot mode, your opponent has to scrap a card from their hand and then take a damage counter. So in a double Shockwave deck, I'm quite a big fan of this. As always, you're sitting there rocking a blue icon, so you have got to consider whether you want this in an attacking heavy deck, but that's up to you, ladies and gentlemen. And look, Shockwave does have a fairly nice attack. It's got 6 in alt mode, regardless of which one you go for, and it's got 7 in bot mode in the new one, Major Shockwave. So, you know, options. Options. Speaking of options, the last option we've got here is Alpha Trion. No real use here in bot mode, but in alt mode, when you flip to this mode, return an action card with an orange icon from your scrap pile to your hand. Now, this is absolutely beautiful because it gets actions back. It's lovely. It lets you recover actions. Now, you'll notice at this stage, and this is incredibly important, Unconventional Flying Object has a blue icon. And I think it kind of has to. Otherwise, you could use Alpha Trion to just get it back again and again and then just keep abusing it, and that would be kind of annoying. I mean, look, if you just used Alpha Trion to get Unconventional Flying Object back and then played it to essentially get it back, that would be a weird loop where you achieved nothing. But certainly you could just use your regular flip for Alpha Trion to get it back, and that would be lovely. But it means if you're playing any action card with an orange icon, you can essentially swap Unconventional Flying Object for it. You play Unconventional Flying Object, it goes to the scrap pile, you flip Alpha Trion to bot mode, nothing happens, back to alt mode, oh, now I get to get an orange icon action card. So it basically just lets you do the swap. Cool. And it really depends what kind of build you're playing here. If you're playing a mixed build, you're going to have some orange, you're going to have some blue. Maybe you go for something like Peace Through Tyranny, just to get yourself a cheeky extra turn. And certainly if you're playing an orange deck, this is something you're probably going to be playing for the double orange icon alone. The thing is, we don't really know how good this is going to turn out to be. It's very good to begin with, make no mistake about that. But it's also going to get better and better the more and more spaceships we get. This is always going to be good for spaceships. And because you essentially get the skill when you flip to alt mode or bot mode, this makes it better than an awful lot of cards out there. I like this very much indeed. Incidentally, if we ever do get a spaceship with a when you flip to bot mode ability, you can play this, get the ability, but then you'll be in alt mode so you can use your flip for the turn to use it again, and that will be fun. So this is fun, and it's good for spaceships, and we finally got some support, and that's lovely, but I'd like to know how lovely you think it is. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. Be nice, would you? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games like Transformers, but also a whole bunch of others. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.